In the beginning, Harry talks about in the interview her being better received than he ever thought possible. And in the beginning, I too thought, maybe this is a real moment of change for the royal family. I thought it was especially touching when Prince Charles walked her down the aisle, for example, at her wedding. I thought, wow, the family's really welcomed her. And when they did their first royal tour around the Commonwealth to Australia and to South Africa, I thought they were being really well received. And then we had the stories start to come. So she talks about in the interview, the turning point being that story about her making Kate cry ahead of the wedding. And I think, especially as a woman of colour and a Black woman, that story hit very close to home, because labelling Black women as aggressive and as bullies is something that's been going on for centuries. It's rooted, has its origins in slavery. And it was made to kind of keep Black women in a box and keep them subjugated. And whenever they raise their voice about an opinion, they're suddenly aggressive. And that happens to countless people in the workplace. It's happened to Serena Williams. It's happened to Michelle Obama. And to see the same thing happening to her, it was quite hard to watch. But then to hear the claim that there were concerns from members of the royal family about the skin tone of what was now Archie, that's worse kind of racism than I ever even considered could happen to her. I expected the racial undertones in the reporting about Meghan. I expected there to always be that undercurrent of racism, but to hear it so outright, it's really scary. It's very shocking, and it's hard to see how the royal family are going to come back from this. It would be incredibly hypocritical for them to investigate claims of bullying against Meghan and to say nothing about the claims of racism lodged against members of their own family. And I think we really need to see a statement from the royal household, an official royal communication, to show that they're taking it seriously. I've seen reports in the media today that the Queen has refused to sign a statement that was put in front of her, that she's taking time to consider her response. And of course, I understand that. But I think whatever happens, they cannot just ignore this and hope that it goes away, which I think is a tactic we've seen exercised many times by the royal family. I really think they need to say something, and they need to take these claims seriously, especially the claims about Meghan's mental health and how she was refused help despite being suicidal. I think that's really damaging, especially because one of the headline campaigns of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge is, of course, the Heads Together campaign, where they really want to encourage people to speak about their mental health. And the fact that someone was in such a dire state and refused help by the palace, that's going to be incredibly damaging. So they really need to get out ahead of this story and show that they're taking it seriously, ultimately. I think we've been seeing the kind of anti-royal sentiment in the Commonwealth for a long time. Several Caribbean nations have removed the Queen as their head of state. And I think this is only going to make it worse. It was already a precarious position for the royal family to be in. Many people are questioning the need for the Commonwealth with its roots in colonialism and whether or not the wealth is actually common. And I think the timing of this interview, especially around Commonwealth Day, will be very damning. And if the royal family do not do something to refute these claims of racism or to investigate them, they're going to face a lot of scrutiny. Because as as Meghan said in her interview, 70% of the Commonwealth are people of colour. It's rooted in the global South, and they will see this as an insult. As I would as a Commonwealth citizen, being from 2 Commonwealth countries, to me it seems like this family that is supposed to be head of so many African countries, so many Caribbean nations, they don't accept people of colour in their own country. Why would they accept them across the world? So it'll be interesting to see what the Queen does say, if she does say anything as head of the Commonwealth, and how that will affect her relationship with the Commonwealth countries. There are plenty of journalists in this country that do very important and very impressive work that should continue. But I think we really do need to consider the impact of our reporting, and not just the impact on people's mental health, as we saw with Meghan, but the impact on society. I'd like to see a lot more consideration and a lot more scrutiny of the media. The claims that Harry made, about the relationship between the tabloids and the royal family and the sort of invisible contract that was there. I think a lot of that needs to be more transparent. And I really hope that this interview is kind of a watershed moment in the media in the UK, and that kind of shroud of secrecy and the obvious relationship with members of the royal household and members of the royal family even, it needs to be brought to light. And I hope that happens as well as a result of this.